Hello, welcome to Bicycle Legs and another edition of
In Defense Of. Today we're going to be looking at the 15th and final album by the legendary British band Genesis, and that is Calling All Stations. Now, I know how much fans of this band hate this album. I know how much the critics panned it at the time. A lot of people consider that it's not a real Genesis album because it doesn't have Peter Gabriel or Phil Collins singing lead vocals. I want to look at this album again because I actually think this is not a bad album at all. It's certainly not top shelf Genesis by any stretch of the imagination. But I definitely think it's a better album than people give it credit for, and I definitely don't think it's the worst album that Genesis ever did. So what I'm going to do, as I do in these series, is I'm going to go through it track by track, sort of discuss each track and what I think of it, and then I'll give you some overall thoughts at the end. And now it starts off with the title track, Calling All Stations, and I reckon this is a wonderful opening track. It starts off with a really crunchy opening guitar riff. The synths on it have that wonderful Tony Banks feel to them. I think it's got a really good vocal from the new vocalist Ray Wilson. It's just a pity that it fades out when it does. It feels like it's just building up to a climax and then it fades out. But otherwise, I think it's a really good, dramatic, hard-rocking opening track. The second song is Congo. Congo was the first single off the album, and I think it's a good, catchy single. In fact, I think it's a better single than anything off Invisible Touch or We Can't Dance, with the notable exception of No Son of Mine, which I think is an absolutely fabulous song. I think it's got a cool synth solo, Congo does, but again it fades out in an odd spot. But a really good song. I really like it. Shipwrecked is the next song. It's a so-so ballad. I'm not a big fan of sort of later era Genesis ballads. But I still think this is a better one than some of the other ones that have been on the more recent albums, particularly Hold On My Heart. Ugh, terrible song. So Shipwrecked is alright. The next song is Alien Afternoon. The melody of this one is a little bit plodding early on, but I like the lyric of it. You get into a really good atmospheric sort of middle to later section. It builds up really nicely, and at least it sort of gets up to a climax before it fades out, so they don't fade this one out too early, which is nice. So that's side one. It's a three-sided album on vinyl. The fourth side's etched. On side two, it starts off with Not About Us, which was also a single. Now, this is my exception to the not liking Genesis ballads, because I think this is a wonderful song. I really, really like Not About Us. The lyric, I mean, it's a pretty ordinary lyric, but the melody of it is absolutely beautiful. And Ray's vocal on it in particular is superb. Yeah, great song. Really like it. The next song is called If That's What You Need. This one's a little ho-hum, to be honest. This is not one of the better tracks on the album at all. It sounds to me like a sort of second-rate Mike and the Mechanics song. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Mike and the Mechanics when they're good. To me, really good Mike and the Mechanics is excellent, really, really great. But there's a lot of Mike and the Mechanics that's kind of and this sounds like one of those sort of Mike and the Mechanics songs. The next song is The Dividing Line. I really love the synth bass intro, and there's some pretty cool guitar in the intro as well. The drums are great in this song. They're really, more than any of the other songs, I think the drums have a wonderful sort of Phil Collins vibe to them. Yeah, really good. I really, really like this song. It's a really good, energetic latter-day Genesis song. It's probably my favorite song on the album, and it's probably one of my favorite Genesis songs from sort of the last 3 or 4 albums. I think it's an excellent song. Really, really good song. Worth the price of admission for that song alone. The next song is called Uncertain Weather. It's also a ballad, but it's a sort of a moody and atmospheric one rather than a sappy ballad like Hold On My Heart or something like that. It's not bad. It's not great. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's not great. It's decent. So now we get on to side 3, and we get Small Talk, which is another mid-paced rocker. There's quite a few mid-paced sort of rock songs on this album. There's some really nice keys on this song from Tony. I like the atmosphere of this song. It's a good song, not outstanding the way Dividing Line is, but it's a really good, it's a good song. I like it. The next song is called There Must Be Some Other Way. I like the way this one builds from sort of quiet verses to much more energetic and loud choruses, and then back again. There's a really, really good keyboard middle section in this one, quite a lengthy one too. And I'm a sucker for Tony Banks' keyboard solo, so yeah, really like that. And then the last song is called One Man's Fool. This is the closest thing to an epic on the album. It's about 9 minutes long. There's more cool atmospherics. There's a rather odd, really quiet keyboard solo in this one, whereas the rest of the song is sort of more sort of atmospheric and mid-tempo and yeah, but it goes to a double time at the end, which is really good. It really sort of gives the song a bit of energy right at the end. I think it's a good album closer. So my thoughts overall for this album is that, in my humble opinion, this is definitely a better album than We Can't Dance, and I'd say it's a better album than Invisible Touch as well. It could have been even better if they had not faded those first couple of songs out in weird spots, let them build to their proper climaxes, and if they dropped just a couple of the weaker tracks. I mean, it's a long album. It's 3 sides on vinyl. You know, they could have cut, say, Shipwrecked, and If That's What You Need, and made it a single album, maybe. I don't know. I think it would have improved the album. But as it is, I still think it's a really good album. Unfortunately, this has turned out to be the sort of last rock-based album that Tony Banks has been involved with. His solo stuff has all been classical orchestral pieces, and they're nice. I like them. But I love Tony Banks the songwriter, and we really haven't had Tony Banks the songwriter since this album. And that's sad to me. It would have been interesting to see where this lineup had gone if they'd made another album. The big Train fan in me also wonders what would have happened if, instead of picking Ray Wilson, they'd picked David Longdon. May he rest in peace. But I think Ray does a really good job on this album. I think he was a good fit. but it would have been great to see if Ray had been more fully integrated into the band, because he sort of came in as the songs had mostly been already written. If he got more involved with the writing process, how that would have gone. But obviously, as we know, it wasn't to be. Overall, this album has a slightly darker feel than a lot of Genesis albums, particularly the more recent Genesis albums in their catalogue, which had been definitely going toward. I mean, if you think of, Abacab, the self-titled album, Invisible Touch, We Can't Dance, they're all got fairly bright sound to them for the most part. They're upbeat. I mean, they've got ballads and stuff too, but they're quite bright sounding and poppy sounding. This definitely has a more darker, atmospheric sort of feel to it, and I really like that. I think it's a good fit for Genesis. This album is definitely not the dumpster fire that people say that it is. You know, the fans loathe this album. They say, oh, it's not a real Genesis album. The critics panned it. They wouldn't have anything to do with it. You know, Genesis were really sort of irrelevant by 1997. This album never stood a chance, I don't think, and that's really a shame, because there's some really good music on this album. As I said, not a top tier Genesis album. I don't think anybody, or not very many people, are going to argue that. But I think it's definitely worth a listen, definitely worth a re-listen. If you haven't listened to this album, you're a Genesis fan, you haven't put this album on recently, go give it a spin and listen to it with a fresh set of ears. And I think you might find there's actually some music on here that's really worthwhile. Anyway, that's my review of Calling All Stations by Genesis. In defense of, I think this album is worthwhile. Let me know in the comments what you think, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, what some of your favorite tracks on the album might be. I really love reading the comments, so please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have a lot of other videos now. I've got them all playlisted. So if you go to my playlists, you'll see there's a playlist for my In Defense Of series where you can see the other albums that I've defended. I have a playlist for my favorite albums of all time. I have a playlist for my studio albums ranked. I have a playlist for my anniversary albums, and so on and so on. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram, I'm mostly posting the albums that I happen to be listening to at the time. On Twitter, I talk about anything and everything, but I am trying to give that more of a music focus. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.